Salutations readers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nkechi, and this is giving my mid-year stats and reflections for 2026. Not gonna lie, I really am glad that we all made it to the midpoint of 2026. As you can see here, I'm not really at home right now because, well, I am house sitting and dog sitting. Dakota, which some of y'all are familiar with, as I constantly tend to watch her from time to time. But besides that, as far as like the first 6 months of the year, I think have been pretty solid, especially for my reading, considering the fact that I also went back to college as well, which was definitely a major shift as well to my usual routine for the past few years. And it has definitely taken a hit to my reading. But to be quite honest, I feel like my reading has definitely been slowing down in the past couple of years. I don't know why that is, but it just is. I mean, it just is what it is. And it's nothing really for me to like feel bad about. It's just something that I just noticed. And it's like, well, there ain't nothing wrong with it. We just gotta like keep it moving forward. And even though I did expect myself to read less, I actually read more so far this year than I actually genuinely thought I would at this point. I really thought I would be reading a lot less to practically not at all. I was able to read as I was going through this semester. And now that I'm in summer vacation, I definitely have more time to read, even though I'm not reading as much as I thought I would. I mean, it's not like I was reading less during the semester and then I got a huge uptake in reading ever since summer vacation, but I definitely have been a lot more motivated to read during the summer, and definitely for sure during the semester as well. So that's why I'm like, the second half of the year, I'm kind of pretty optimistic and even have higher expectations of myself, but also I gotta keep in mind that like, the fall semester is a different vibe than the spring semester. So let's really just talk about the first 6 months. So let's get through some reading stats real quick. So I have finished reading 27 books, DNF'd 16 books, read a total of 2,778 pages, listened to a total of 217.02 hours, and my average reading is of 4.06, which is really, really good. This is actually some really good reading stats. I'm glad that I did not DNF as many books as I generally thought. I really thought that at this point in the year, especially since I was in school, that I would have DNF'd way more books and then read less books. So the fact that I have finished more books than I've actually DNF'd, that's a really good sign. But as far as like my top reading moods, according to Storygraph, the top 5: emotional, funny, lighthearted, dark, and reflective. I definitely find myself reading more emotional reads, and that's mostly because I'm reading less adventurous fantasy books this time around, which is not really a bad thing at all. It just means I want something a little bit different, so that it tugs at my heartstrings a little bit. And as far as genres, the most read genres so far this year are historical fiction, contemporary fiction, fantasy, romance, and literary fiction. Very much a huge departure from previous years. Like, I have not read this much historical fiction ever in my life. Now, granted, I have been reading the Unselected Journals of M.M. Lyon series, so that's pretty much where the bulk of my historical fiction is coming from. But I have still read a couple other historical fiction books as well, so it's not just that series. And it's still nice to see, though, that I'm still reading just enough, like, fantasy, but also some, like, romance. Also, it's quite intriguing for me to see literary fiction in the top 5, because sometimes literary fiction just barely makes it to top 5, or it's like not quite there. I've definitely have been more interested in reading literary fiction, especially contemporary literary fiction these days. And as far as the reading method, so the least right now is ebook at 3.7%. I think I've only really finished reading one ebook, and just ebooks solely, and I think that one was it A Longing Speaking Silence by Nevo? Yeah, that was the only one I read, and that was an e-arc from the publisher. Next up is physical with 7.4%. I definitely have read very little. I think the most prominent one I remember on the top of my head is Funny Story by Emily Henry. That one I only had as a physical book. Next is hybrid read at 18.5%. I've been trying to get myself to hybrid read a little bit more. Not as much as I think I would have liked, but I'm still finding myself more intrigued to either have the ebook with the audiobook or a physical in the audiobook. And then of course the audiobooks are at 70.4%. Like, yeah, it just makes sense. The audiobooks are just more convenient. It's easier for me to read while I'm commuting from home to my college. So it just makes things way more easier. Now here is a graphic right here as far as like all the stats that I just mentioned. But yeah, so far though, none of the stats really quite shock me, honestly, except for like, the number of books read versus DNF'd. Everything else here definitely just makes sense for the way that my reading has gone so far this year. Now, let's get in a little bit to like the series tracker. I've definitely been more interested in continuing in reading series this year than I did last year, but not as much. Of course, we all know I've only read 27 books, so I haven't really started that miniseries, finished that miniseries, or caught up with the miniseries. But I also like to audit, though, the kind of series that I'm still interested in reading. So this year, I did start reading 2 series. I have finished 1 series. There are 10 series that I still keep as ongoing that I'm still interested in continuing on with. I've caught up to 2 series, and then I also have DNF'd 3 series. And I also am still catching up to 2 series. Yeah, there's 2 series that I'm trying to catch up on. One to actually be caught up, and the other one to actually finish. So here's a graphic right here as far as the series, which series specifically I've started, decided to not continue, I finished, caught up, catching up on, and also sequels that I need to read, actually. So as far as started, we have Birth of a Dynasty and Nana. We have the Spells for Life and Death by Isaac Ajanian that I finished. As far as what I'm not continuing is the Raven and Fisher mystery series. It's a completed series that I just end up deciding not to even bother with. We have the Immortal Dark trilogy, which will be completed this year, but I actually have no interest in continuing. And then we have the Nkechi Wayasit series. If that's the name, I think that's the name of the series. Yeah, I kind of decided not to read the sequel. And as far as the series I'm catching up on is the Patternist series by Octavia E. Butler, as well as the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. Both of those books have one more book for me to either catch up or finish. Patternist, I can definitely finish if I read Pattern Master. And then if I read Volume 8 of the Emma M. Lyon series, then I'm caught up in it. And of course, the series I'm trying to read, read the sequels for. Since I started reading Birth of a Dynasty, of course, I got to read the sequel, The Call of Crowns, which I do have an arc from the publisher, so thanks to them. And of course, we have the Tapestry of Fate, which is a sequel to The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. So yeah, and of course caught up, the Singing Hill Cycle and the Supernatural Investigation series. So yeah, those are really the series that I'm keeping an eye on and making pretty good progress in. Now, this next graphic here are some pretty notable series that I'm they're ongoing, and I'm still keeping in mind of hey, I still want to read them. And it is Gideon the Ninth. We have the Mimicking of Known Success as part of the investigations of Masan Paletti. Spin of Fate, I do own the sequel, Wheel of Wrath, so I'm hoping to continue on that series. We also have When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I don't think this is a finished series. And of course, we have Savage Blooms that came out last year. The sequel doesn't come out till next year, so still a series that I am keeping an eye on. But those are the current ongoing series that I really want to keep an eye on. Now, next up is my book buying and saving. Now, this, again, just like I said last year and previous years, this is information that I am just want to be honest with y'all as just to disclose. This is not something that everyone needs to do. I don't think this is something that everyone needs to share with anyone on the internet. Maybe something for you to just keep in mind of. I feel as though that's just my personal opinion. And for me, I would like to share it because I want people to know how often I buy books, but especially since I don't really film book hauls, book haul videos, but also I borrow things from a library, such as I don't film library haul videos. So first up, let's actually talk about book buying in 2026 so far. I have acquired 32 books this year so far. They definitely been sporadic as far as how often I buy books. I do have a graphic right here on amount of books I've bought per month and also the format. I will say though, it was a little bit surprising for me to see that I didn't buy any books in the month of May. I didn't buy any ebooks, audiobooks, nothing at all for the month of May. Probably because I was just trying to finish up the semester. And as you can actually see right here for formats acquired, it is kind of surprising on how much audiobooks I have purchased. 40.6% audiobook, 6.3% ebook, and then 53.1% physical. I have noticed that I've been wanting to purchase audiobooks more this time around since I am in school and it's just easier for me to read via audio. So I was I love to own an audiobook more so than getting a physical book. Now let's get into my library borrowing. I have a graphic right here for that. So I do have the month by month as far as the number of library materials that I have borrowed, which includes books and DVDs. The total books I have borrowed is 58. Total DVDs borrowed is 17. And so you see formats borrowed, you see the DVDs, the number of physical books, number of ebooks, and the number of audiobooks. I don't have it in percentages, unfortunately, but I do have it just the numbers. I would say the first half of the year, January, February, and March, that first quarter, it's definitely been I'm borrowing a lot from my library. But then the last few months, Like in this quarter two, I definitely have borrowed less. Like April and May, I definitely borrowed way less. And then June, it's a huge uptick again, which makes sense because I'm out of school, so I can uptick it up again. And I think it's also just really interesting for me to see how the number of books that I've borrowed versus the number of books I've purchased is either on the same bar, or it's like I've borrowed more than I have purchased, which is exactly how I want it to be every single year. I want to borrow more than I buy. In this graphic here, I have my total acquisition cost at $326.84. Then the total amount of money I've actually saved via borrowing from my library is $1,765.38. And then my net total savings is positive at $1,438.54. This is exactly how I want to go about borrowing things from my library and also buying books. I don't think we have like an actual annual budget as far as like how much I want to purchase books, but I definitely try to be conscious as far as like where I'm buying the books and how often I purchase books full price. More so than not, I prefer to purchase full price books, mostly really when it's like a pre-order, but I also want to prioritize buying books used. So I do usually like to go through Pango, or I have half price books that's pretty close to me. So that way I'm able to like just get books for pretty cheap. Especially if I do get a new book, I can kind of get a new book kind of cheap, but that depends though on the location and also how soon I try to look at half price books when those books come out. But for the most part though, as far as like buying any books full price, has been going through an independent bookstore. Like I went through bookshop.org, or I went to the independent bookstore in person. Like every year my birthday so far in the past couple of years, I go to an independent bookstore and I just buy books, as many books as I can afford at that time. And I just really like that I'm kind of like moving away from like going to Barnes & Noble, because I just find myself being bored browsing through Barnes & Noble, even though yes, Barnes & Noble locations tend to be having a much bigger selection than independent bookstores, but I find myself way more intrigued to purchase a book in an independent bookstore than Barnes & Noble these days. So I don't know, I think that's just the way that my book buying has been going. And as far as borrowing things from my library, I just borrow whatever I think is just interesting at the time being. I think that's it for my book buying and saving, and let's just get right into the reading goals. I have not really made much actual progress in my reading goals. One of my reading goals was to read down my physical TBR to 50% like I did last year. That needle has barely moved. It might have moved just a little bit down because I've been unhauling books, but I am also kind of hopeful that maybe later on this year I can like read more things for my physical TBR so that I can make some more progress in that. But right now I have not worked close to 50% like at all. Finishing reading 4 series, I've only managed to finish reading 1. And as far as the series that I'm actually currently interested in like even reading, I mean the only actual series that I could actually finish right now is like the Powderness series from Octavia E. Butler right now. Nana, as far as manga, like that's an option as well. And if I did decide to actually finish the Raven and Fisher mystery series, I could just read the 5th book and that would be completed. And then, you know, my goal is done, but I'm not going to read that series. So that's already at 2. So unless I start a whole other series that's already completed and finished up by the end of the year, I might not even accomplish this goal this year, which is not terrible. I did think that having 4 series was a bit much initially, but I thought I could possibly do it if I really do focus on more sequels. But the way my reading's going, I don't think I'm going to accomplish that goal. My other goal was to read 3 classics. I have yet to even read 1, so to be quite honest, seeing myself reading 3 in the next 6 months is looking pretty slim. Reading 3 nonfiction works. This is actually a goal that I can actually accomplish. Truthfully, I have managed to read 2 nonfiction books so far this year, and I'm really proud of myself. So all I need is really 1 more, and to be quite honest, I'm going to read even more than that. So I'm actually really proud of myself for this particular goal. Like, it was manageable. I see myself actually accomplishing it. Like, all I need to do is read 1 more nonfiction book. And I already own like 3 back at home. So I need to read 1 of them or borrow 1 from my library. That's it. That is a goal that I see myself definitely accomplishing. And then read 2 translated works. I have yet to read 1 translated work. Well, technically, I mean, I didn't make a note that I've read any translated work, but technically speaking, when you really think about it, Nana is a manga series, and the manga series was originally written in Japanese. So technically, translated work, because I said translated work, I didn't say translated novel, I just said translated work. And manga counts. So technically, I have read one, but it's part of a series. So it's like, that's more of my series goal than just like general translated works. Now, if I read like a whole nother manga series, I feel like it will definitely accomplish this goal. But I do really want to read like a translated novel. And I do own a couple of them for sure, my TBR. I just need to actually read them. Technically speaking, this goal is still doable. Now, as far as checking on my Self-Destruct TBR, here's just a graphic right here as far as what those books are. If you see the books like A Dark and Drowning Tide and Good Girl looking a little less opaque, I did that on purpose to just demonstrate the fact that those are books that I generally I actually unhauled. 2 books have already self-destruct at this point, and I have 4 more left to go. I'm still optimistic that I can manage to get through, I think, 2 of the 4 that are left. I hope. I'm at least going to try, for sure. Now, just to quickly as well, just to get into things that I'm hopeful for the remainder part of the year, I'm actually kind of hopeful to get through about 6 books for my physical TBR before the end of the year. And here are the 6 books here. There are 3 books here that are not as opaque as the rest. We have Ling Ling Huang's Natural Beauty, Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, and Tommy Orange's They're There. Now, They're There and Emma by Jane Austen are books that you've seen through for my Self-Destruct TBR. Those 2 books I put in my like end of the year hopefuls because I truly believe I could actually be interested in at least starting reading those books. And then if I end up DNFing, or if I end up being like, this is not good, or I don't care about it, I can unhaul it, or if I end up enjoying it, I read it. As far as these other books, again, they're just books that I already own that I really want to get myself to like really finish reading, like The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I have yet to read that book, but it's one of my nonfiction books that I do own. So I want to be able to read that so I can accomplish it for my nonfiction reading goal. Pattern Master by Octavia Butler, last book in the Powerness series. So that'll be going through my series goal. And then, of course, Emma by Jane Austen for my classics goal. Even Song of Solomon is also part of my classics goal. So actually, if I could read both of them, that'd be great. But those are like the 6 books on my physical TBR that I'm like, I really want to prioritize and actually like get through. Honestly, that's kind of it. That's all I really have to say for this mid-year check-in on my stats and some reflections for the year and my hopefuls for later on this year. Thank you all for watching this video. I will have some links in the video description down below. I will have my winter wrap-up, my spring wrap if you're curious about certain book reviews, my mid-year tag if you've not checked that out. I also have my 2026 goals video and also have my hiatus video because technically speaking, I'm still on a hiatus, but I still would like to post some videos, even in 2026, even when I'm in a hiatus. So, yeah. So, please, like if you like it, comment down below your thoughts on anything that I've mentioned in this video, really. Even share y'all's reading stats if y'all want. And if you're new here, you like my vibe, you also want to see a little bit more videos from me as well. Even though I am on hiatus, I'm still posting as much as I can. Then I do recommend subscribing if you have not done so already. And you made this far in the video, you're not sure what to say, but you want to leave me an emoji to let me know you're here, you gotta leave me some sort of stats or graph emoji, There's the line graph, the bar graph, those emojis, whichever one you prefer. Anyways, thank you again for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.